Welcome back, friends. Today I am super excited about this project. I am going to transform this old blue bottle that I picked up from Goodwill into something just super cute and, of course, shabby chic. So you're going to go ahead and just take a couple of coats of white chalk paint, and we are going to completely cover this bottle. Yes, the blue is really pretty. I love that cobalt color. However, the bottle, the paint itself was actually chipping off, so it was time to give this a new facelift. So I know you guys are so used to me doing my hot glue trick when it comes to using my silicone molds and making those decals for projects. This time around, I'm going to use a air dry clay. I will have this linked in my Amazon store. I believe this was just a Crayola brand, but I get a big old tub of it for relatively cheap. And I just love using this clay. You can do so many different things with it. But this time around, I wanted to make some decals for the bottle using the clay itself. Now, the thing that I should have done here that I did not do would have been to remove the excess clay after I had it pressed down into the mold for a little bit. You could just take a butter knife and just kind of slice off the back end, and that would have helped, I think, in the long run with time. Because what you'll see me do here in a moment is I am going to take my X-Acto knife and basically just trim around all the excess clay. You can do you and you know, whatever works best for you. I didn't think about it this time around, but again, I typically use the hot glue. So it was fun though, playing with this clay. I love, love, love using clay, and I probably am going to try to use a lot more of it here in the future. So with this being an air dry clay, it usually takes about 24 to 48 hours to completely harden. This was basically after a few hours. I did remove it from the molds, and I wanted it to be hardened up a little bit, but still be pliable. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using Mod Podge, you guys, putting a coat of it on the back end of this, and then what I'm going to do is press it down into the bottle. And you can kind of tell it does snap a little bit because it has hardened up a little bit, but it is still pliable. You can still maneuver it enough that it'll stick where it needs to and kind of blend, you know, any cracks together. You can still blend them together. So this was just, again, it was just a fun, different technique. I've seen other crafters do this themselves using the clay, and I've always wanted to really take more time to do that. I can be very impatient, y'all. So that's why I always use the hot glue. However, using hot glue all the time, you're using up a lot of your glue. So, and I'm cheap. I don't want to always be spending money on glue. So, but I'm going to stop talking now. You can watch me complete adding on these decals. And again, it's just using Mod Podge and they stick on perfectly. So, of course, the project isn't going to be done just yet. We have more things we need to add to it. I collect a lot of old ephemera and newspapers and things like that. If I find them at yard sales or garage sales or whatever, I will typically pick them up because they're relatively cheap. People are just trying to get rid of this stuff. This is actually just a wedding photo from some newspaper from 1942. And I thought these photos were gorgeous. And this whole newspaper itself was full of just like wedding announcements. And, so I just picked this one. I thought this one was a very pretty piece. Again, if it bothers you that I cut up something old like that, I mean, I'm sorry, but I want this stuff to be showcased, and it's not going to get showcased just sitting in a newspaper that nobody's going to open up. So there is that. But I loved how she looked on this bottle. I just thought it was very elegant. She looked beautiful, and it was just going to add that extra bit of what I wanted in this piece. So what I want to do now is, of course, I'm going to blend in the paint on my decals. So I'm just taking that white paint and I'm going back over each and every decal that I've added on there. Do be careful. I did break a little piece of mine off, but honestly, I don't think anybody's going to notice it, but I was brushing too hard. So just kind of be as gentle as you can. I'm taking just a normal harder brush, just to kind of stipple it over this. But I am going to come back in with a little smaller brush just so I can get into the little nooks and crannies and crevices. And that way it is completely covered with the white. So just to add age and that grunginess that I love to my projects, I am taking that antiquing wax. Now I am going to just kind of brush it on real quick and then wipe it off real quick. I don't want it to be too super heavy, but I do want to give it that aged look that I love. And because this bottle has so many details to it already, I mean, in the glass itself, there's a lot of etchings and there's a lot of texture. So this is definitely going to pop when I start adding that wax to all of those edges and corners and crevices, and of course to my decals. And I just absolutely love the look and effect that that gives it. So I'm coming in after I do all of the antique wax, and I'm going to use, I believe this is called Antique Rose. I'll have to double check. But this beautiful, beautiful pink color that I love to use. And I'm just going to dry brush it over all of the crevices, over all of the decals and details. And I just absolutely adore the color effect that this gives. So we're just going to continue adding on little bits of pieces of ribbon and decals or whatever have you, just to embellish this a little bit more, because that's what we do. We like to continue to add all kinds of little details because that's what gives it that look that we love, right? So just little pieces of ribbon that I've cut apart, little pearls. Actually, those little half pearls came from barrettes from Dollar Tree. So again, I utilize kind of anything and everything. I have a hard time of throwing scraps away because I know we can use the scraps for another project, which is what we're doing here. So I'm just adding this to the base of this just to give it a little extra, and then I'm going to tie some ribbons at the top of this bottle as well. And that is pretty much all she wrote.